A stunner at UFC 278. Welcome in CBS Sports combat analyst and co-host of the award-winning Morning Combat, Brian Campbell. Comeback of the year, Leon Edwards knocks out Kamaru Usman. Usman likely on his way to winning a decision. Not so fast. Are you kidding me, BC?
You know, this is the cruelest sport. There are so many ways to lose on the highest level dramatically. It doesn't get any more dramatic than this. And the ironic thing for Leon Edwards, with the nickname Rocky coming in, is he almost lost his big fight before this against Nate Diaz in a similar situation, up on the cards in the fifth and final round, nearly got caught and stopped. Only he does the exact opposite to not only the champion, not only unbeaten in the octagon, but the pound-for-pound king Kamaru Usman, who was, minutes away from taking a closer step toward potential greatest of all time status, potential greatest welterweight in UFC status, and it all comes crashing down with one left kick heard round the world. Wow. That's my analysis.
I mean, it's incredible. It's improbable because, I mean, look, end of the fifth round, you're thinking, hey, this is over. If Kamaru can just finish it out. He was wearing Edwards down throughout the fight, and then the improbable happens with this kick, which was absolutely incredible. Edwards ending Usman's 15-fight winning streak in the UFC. And you and I talked about this in the lead-up, that Leon Edwards said that MMA saved him, that this is something that he worked on, his craft. And again, he is unbeaten now in 11 fights. His last loss coming to Usman in 2015, so he gets revenge here. What have you learned about Leon Rocky Edwards during this stretch?
Just that perseverance, just that Rocky-like character underneath the fighter. Look, he's never been a marketable guy. It's been held against him in terms of his climbing up the rankings. Had to go through a 10-fight stretch without a loss to be considered for this title shot. And if we're really being honest, ahead of this fight, there wasn't a ton of buzz. It was almost as if, let's give Kamaru Usman this last rematch. Let's set this up the table for an eventual fight against Khamzat Chimaev. You even heard the UFC's pay-per-view announcers during round 5 of this fight before this big strike, essentially, as they said in their own words, writing the obituary to Leon Edwards. Edwards was exhausted over rounds 2, 3, and 4 as Usman began to use his jab and his wrestling to somewhat mimic the success he had in their first fight back in 2015. Most fighters would have packed it in. You heard the talk on the broadcast that maybe Edwards looked, and I did agree with this, sort of happy to potentially go the distance and take a moral victory in a loss. Only nobody told Leon Edwards that, as he set up beautifully by leading with his left jab, trying to pull Usman off of the center line so he can catch him with the follow-up left kick to the head. It's a storybook ending. It's a shocking ending given where Usman was and the plans he had ahead. But this is why you can never count out anybody in this game. And as much as we feel like we can predict the future, we feel like we can know what's happening, when a fighter puts together a winning streak like this, whether it be John Jones, Amanda Nunes, Anderson Silva throughout MMA history, and now Kamaru Usman, even in a fight in which Usman was dominating, it still all fell apart. That's because Leon Edwards never gave up, never stopped trying, and this is a testament to the human spirit in many ways, even bigger than one lucky shot.
First Jamaican-born UFC champion, and in the words of Cool Runnings, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's knockout time. Actually, it's bobsled time, but this is knockout time. I mean, I'm still kind of getting over what we just saw. I mean, when you watch this stuff, this is why we watch sports. The best reality television, streaming, whatever you want to call it now. This is why we watch sports, because Edwards did what we didn't think was possible. The first fighter to beat Usman in the UFC. We're talking about the GOAT status of Kamaru Usman, and then Edwards comes in here and flips the script. So then what's next? What's next for this man?
I mean, what's next would have to be a trilogy bout between these two, given the streak Usman was on, a chance to redeem himself. And Edwards said himself coming into here, he knew he was in a position where he had to beat the champion twice. And when a champion has this kind of longevity, they have a reason to get a chance again. That's what you're going to see here. But you want to compare this historically. No one's going to forget Anderson Silva rallying also in round 5, down deep on the scorecards against Chael Sonnen to pull off a submission we never saw coming. but to head kick KO the defending champion, pound for pound king, who's never been beaten in the cage. And you can't stress enough how much the storyline build to this fight wasn't really about would this be competitive. It was really about how close is Usman to MMA immortality. Now at 35, he's got to go back to the drawing board, probably in a trilogy bout, to try to regain that title. You can't write this stuff. And that's why at the highest level, combat sports is really unlike anything other, because Leon Edwards can put together one strike off a sequence in which he was doing nothing, and it's the equivalent of a 10-run grand slam in the final at bat. That's mixed martial arts for you.
So do you think that this plays out similar to the way we saw Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes? Like Juliana Pena pulls off the upset, then Amanda Nunes restores order in the division. So then we have a trilogy here between Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, and Usman restores order in this division, in the welterweight division. Yeah,
it's an uphill battle for Edwards heading into a potential trilogy in which you'd have to believe Usman would be the betting favorite, as was Amanda Nunes. And like you mentioned, you saw what happened in that rematch. But let's give Rocky his due. It's been a long road for him to get here. It didn't have the fanfare, as I mentioned. And when you are in a fight in which most of it you are losing in such one-sided fashion, round three could have been a 10-8 round, depending on how you were scoring it. Edwards had already surprised us by becoming the first fighter to take Kamaru Usman down. He did that in round one of this fight. But after having that success to close the round, not only in top position on the ground, but threatening a choke, we really didn't hear from Rocky again throughout rounds 2, 3, 4, and most of 5. Let's let him get his second chance to defend this title now. But it's Rocky's night, and as much as we are in disbelief here, Hakeem, it's hard to take anything away from him. He was the fighter who stood there till the very end and never gave up.
Well, he set the tone in the first round, right? The first fighter to take down Usman in 16 UFC fights. Now the first fighter to defeat Kamaru Usman in the UFC. So making history, Leon Edwards, have yourself a night, kid. In the co-main event, wild fight between Paulo Costa and former UFC middleweight champ Luke Rockhold. Costa wins via unanimous decision. End of the fight, it looked like a horror movie. Rockhold smearing his blood all over Costa's face. If you're into that, that's great. And that's what this is what happens here. And you can see it right here. I mean, you know, have yourself a snack and take a look at that. Then the 37-year-old called it a career. Rockhold said, quote, "I can't do this anymore. I gave this my all. I'm bleeping old." BC, your reaction to the fight and to Rockhold's retirement?
We knew this fight could get wild. I think most of us felt, despite Rockhold's renaissance he said he's going under right now, he was headed toward a knockout loss, or so we thought. But Rockhold in his final fight did something I think is a bigger upset than anything else, even above winning. He brought the fans back on his side. Rockhold's respected. He's a former champion at 37, but he's never really been beloved. He's been accused of being arrogant. He's been accused of not having a good chin or being tough. But the way he was able to fight through intense issues with stamina, as this fight was wild. You saw Rockhold closing rounds 1 and 2 with his hands on his knees, looking like he may not be able to continue. Yet he rallied back and nearly stopped a still prime Paulo Costa, who just 2 fights ago attempted a UFC title opportunity. This was Luke Rockhold almost having his Kevin Costner tin cup moment, if you remember the 90s movies reference. No, he didn't go out with a win, but he went out as memorable as possible, showing incredible heart just to make it to the finish, to reverse Costa on the ground and nearly pull a dramatic upset.
A wild night indeed at UFC 278 in Salt Lake City.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.